Bet you didn't see me there.
Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to make a mesh tank top. In a previous tutorial, I taught you how to do the mesh stitch. Now I want to put it together into a wearable project. This is the general shape I'm going to be going for, a simple, boxy, almost cropped tank top shape. You'll definitely need to wear a shirt underneath this one as the fabric is not opaque. So, let me tell you what you're going to need for this project. First things first, you're going to need some yarn. I'm going to be using this beautiful number 4 weight acrylic. It's a lovely little green that I think is going to look super cute for this tank top. You'll also need a crochet hook. I'll be using a 4mm hook today. You'll also need some scissors, as well as a yarn needle to weave in your ends. I'm also going to be using some stitch markers to note where I'm changing rows. If you don't have stitch markers, just grab a spare yarn that is a different color than the yarn you're using and cut a few lengths to 4 or 6 inches long, something you can tie on just to mark where you are in your project. So gather your supplies and let's jump in. We're going to be making a rectangle for the base part of this top. We're going to be doing a long chain and then the mesh stitch up for a bunch of rows. The long chain needs to be divisible by 3. The mesh stitch is worked in sets of 3 stitches. Mine is going to be 105 chains long. That's gonna reach for me from one side of my hip to the other. I want it to be nice and boxy, so I'm adding a little bit of ease. You continue your chain as long as it needs to be wide enough to get halfway around your body, essentially. So if you take a measuring tape to the widest part of your body and then divide it by 2, that's roughly how long you're gonna want your chain to be. Just remember to make it divisible by 3. So I'm going to start with a chain of 105. At the end of your initial chain though, you have to add an extra 5 stitches. I know it's a little confusing. So I'm going to be doing a chain of 105 plus 5 stitches for a total of 110 chains for my foundation chain. First things first, I'm going to do a slip knot. So I've got the tail end of my yarn and the working end of my yarn looped around my finger. I'll crisscross it over itself, put my fingers into the little loop, and then I will grab the working yarn and pull it through the loop. And there's my slip knot. Now I'm going to chain 110 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 106, 7, 8, 109, 110. There is my first initial chain, and I will measure this actually for you so I can tell you how big mine is. All right, so at this point, my initial foundation chain is just 24 inches long. Again, make yours as long as it needs to be for you to have a nice comfortable fit. Now let's get into the actual mesh stitch. Now we're going to count back 8 chains here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. In that 8th chain, we're gonna do a double crochet. Yarn over, insert the hook into the chain stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops for a double crochet. Those stitches that we skipped make up the side, the top, and the bottom of the first section of the work. From here, we'll chain 2, 1 and 2, we'll skip 2, 1 and 2, and then in the following chain, another double crochet. Yarn over, insert the hook into the chain stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Chain 2, 1 and 2, skip 2, 1 and 2, double crochet into the next chain stitch. And we're gonna repeat that all the way across for this first row of our mesh stitch. I'm gonna zoom through the rest of this row because it's just the exact same repeat over and over, and I will meet you at the end of the row to show you what we're gonna do next. All right, here I am at the end of row number 1. I'm going to do my last chain 2, my last skip 2, 1 and 2, and then in this last chain of the row, I'll do my final double crochet. And now we've got this little ladder, which is the first section of our mesh stitch. Now on to row number 2. We're going to begin with a chain of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then turn the work. Now, in the double crochet stitch, we're gonna do a double crochet stitch. So just skip all those other things, leading up to that first double crochet. And that chain 5 made up the chain 2 at the beginning and the double crochet for the side of the row. See? And from here, we're gonna chain 2, and then into the double crochet stitch, we'll put a double crochet. And then chain 2, 1 and 2, and then into the next double crochet stitch, we'll put a double crochet. And just like that, there's the mesh stitch, easy peasy. So I'm gonna zoom across row number 2, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, chain 2, all the way across until I reach the end of the row, and I'll show you what we're gonna do there. Here I am coming up to the end of row number 2. I'm going to put my last double crochet there and then chain 2. And here's how the rows are gonna end. You'll have this loop of chain stitches. So count 2 chain stitches, 1, 2, and then in the third chain stitch, that's gonna be your last stitch of the row. In that third chain stitch, put a double crochet. Just like that. And there we go, that makes up the end of the row. So we end with a nice square edge. Then, to start the next row, chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and turn. Now from here on out, the rows are going to be the same as row number 2. We're going to put a double crochet into each of the double crochet stitches and a chain 2 in between those double crochets. And that's gonna create that beautiful mesh stitch that we're looking for. We're going to continue with this mesh stitch row all the way up to row number 12. So I'm going to keep going with these. I'm on row number 3 right now. I'm gonna keep going until I hit row number 12, and that's where we're going to incorporate some shaping for our armpit. We wanna have a little bit of a curve going on where the armhole is going to be. So I'm gonna zoom through the rest of these rows until I hit row number 12, and I'll meet you back here. At this point, if you want your shirt to be a little bit longer, mine's gonna be cropped, probably right around to belly button height. If you want yours to be longer, go ahead and do more rows at this point. I'm stopping at row 12 because that is going to reach right around belly button length for the length of the shirt. But if you want it to go down to your hips, maybe you'll do 15 or 16 or 20 rows to get it to be a little bit longer. All right, enough talking. I'm gonna zoom through the rest of these rows and I'll meet you at the end of row number 12. I've just about made it to the end of my 12th row and it looks awesome. I love this mesh stitch. I'm really glad we're making this into a tank top today. Let me just put my last few stitches in, and then I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do moving forward into row number 13 and beyond. All right, there's my last stitch in, and now let me just measure this for you so you know roughly how big mine is. For 12 rows, I am just at 6 inches high for the bottom part of the shirt. Now we're gonna be working on the armpit shaping or the underarm shaping. So this is where I'm gonna use my stitch markers. I'm going to mark from the side the first 3 squares, 1, 2, and 3. And I'm gonna put a little stitch marker at the double crochet 3 stitches in, or 3 squares in. And I'm gonna do the same thing at the other side. 1, 2, and 3. And then I'll just put my stitch marker there. We are going to leave these ends unworked, and we're going to actually do the same mesh stitch, but just in between these 2 stitches. So let's get ourselves there. For row number 13, I'll start with a chain of 1 and turn. Now I need to get myself over to this stitch marker. So I'm gonna do that by doing slip stitches in each of the chains all the way across. So I'm gonna put a slip stitch in the first one, slip stitch in the second one, and I'm just gonna slip stitch my way across. It's a little bit difficult because I'm slip stitching into a chain, but that chain is backwards, so it's a little hard to know where to put your hook. But just put 1 slip stitch in each of the chain stitches and 1 slip stitch into the double crochets until we get to that stitch marker. And there we go. I've made it to my stitch marker. Now at this point, we're going to kind of imagine that we've just finished a row, and we're gonna start here with a chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to go ahead and continue with the pattern we've been doing. Double crochet into the next double crochet stitch. Then chain 2, double crochet into the next double crochet stitch. And we're gonna do that all the way across until we reach the next stitch marker. So I'm going to finish row number 13. I'll meet you at the next stitch marker to show you what we're going to do next. Here I am coming up to the end of row number 13. I've made it to my stitch marker. I'll put my last chain 2, and then in the spot where that stitch marker is, I'm going to put my last double crochet of this row. And that's where we're going to end our row for row number 13. Row number 14 is going to start as all of the other mesh rows have, with a chain of 5. 3, 4, 5, and then turn. Now our first section was 12 rows tall. I'm going to do another 14 rows. So there's my first row. I have 13 more rows that I'm going to do in the mesh stitch, but just between the 2 stitch markers. So now from row number 13 all the way up to row number 26, we're going to repeat this short row with the exact same mesh stitch. I'm going to zoom through this part because it's the exact same thing, and I will meet you here when I have finished my 14 rows. Here I am coming up to the end of row number 26. It is looking awesome, and it is time now for us to do our shoulder shaping. This is where we're going to create the neckline and the shoulder seams for our little tank top. There's my last stitch of the row. And here is what that's looking like. The 14 rows of mesh in the middle body portion, and then the 12 rows of mesh at the bottom of the shirt. That's how it's looking like right now on both sides. And now for the next row, we're going to be doing shoulder shaping. So we're going to start the next row with a chain of 5 like we always do. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And turn the work. Now I'm going to use my stitch marker again here. I'm going to count 7 squares over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then just after that 7th square, I will put in my stitch marker. And I'm going to do the same thing at the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Just after that 7th square, I'll put in my stitch marker. Now, I'm going to crochet across in our mesh stitch here just till I get to this stitch marker. A double crochet in each of the double crochet stitches with a chain 2 in between. It'll just take me 1 second to get there, so I'll stick with you through this part. And chain 2, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. And now we're going to do a short row. So we're going to end our row here. From here, we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and turn the work. And then we're going to go across with the same mesh stitch to the end of the row. And we're going to go back and forth like this on this short row until we have 5 rows of shoulder shaping mesh stitch. So just go back and forth until you have 5 rows here. I'll meet you at the end of the 5th row to show you what we're going to do next to get ourselves over to the other side. All right, I've just finished my 5 rows for the shoulder shaping. I'm on my last little section here, and we are going to be going around the work to get to the other side. Let me explain. So let me put my last double crochet in here. And now what we're going to be doing is we are going to be single crocheting across the top of the work, single crocheting down the side until we reach the armpit, across, down, across the bottom, up the side, and then across the armpit, up the side until we get back to this side. And then we're gonna do the same mesh stitch to get it even on the other side, but we're gonna do single crochets. So let me show you how we're gonna do it. We'll start here with a chain of 1, and then I'm gonna turn the work. Now I'm gonna put a single crochet into the base of the chain 1. In the spot where we've got those 2 chain stitches, I'm gonna put 2 single crochets. There's 1 and there's 2. And then I'll single crochet in the double crochet stitch. 2 single crochets where the chain 2s are, 1 single crochet in the double crochet stitch, 2 where the chain 2 is, 1 in the double crochet until I get to the corner of the work. Here I am at the end of the row. to get myself around this edge, around the corner, we're gonna put 2 single crochets, chain 1, 2 single crochets, all in this 1 chain loop here. So I've got my last double crochet, and then I'll do 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, and then a chain 1, and that'll be our corner stitch, and then 2 more single crochets to get us around the corner. And now we've got our 2 going this way and 2 going this way, separated by a chain 1, which gives us a little bit of a sharper corner. Now we're gonna be working down the side of the work. We're gonna do something a little different for the side. Here, we're just going to be putting 2 single crochets in each of the chain 2 spaces for the side here. So we're not gonna do anything on the actual, on the chain row here. We're just gonna go ahead and go right into that space and put 2 single crochets there. Then we'll jump across to the next space, 2 single crochets there, next space, 2 single crochets there. And we'll do that all the way down until we reach the underarm or the armpit or the arm shaping section. I'll just zoom down this row and I'll see you at that corner. All right, I made it to that corner where the arm shaping is. So I've done 2 single crochets here. Now I'm gonna jump over to this side and I'm going to put 2 single crochets in here. Now we're at a section that's a row again. So where the double crochets are, I'm gonna put 1 single crochet, and where the chain stitches are, I'm gonna put 2 single crochets. At a double crochet, I'll put 1 single crochet, and then at that chain, I'll put 2 single crochets. And now I'm actually at another corner. So I'm gonna chain 1, I did 2 single crochets in the corner, chain 1, and then 2 more single crochets in the same corner. And now I'll be working down the rows again. So I'll just go into all of the large spaces and I'll put 2 single crochets in each of the large spaces all the way down. And I'll meet you at the bottom corner. I've made it now to the bottom corner. So I'm gonna put my 2 single crochets, chain 1, and then 2 more single crochets all in that spot. And now I'm gonna be working along the bottom edge of the shirt. So at this point, I'm on a cross row as opposed to a vertical. I'm on a horizontal row instead of a vertical. So in the double crochets, I'm gonna put 1 single crochet, and in the chain 2 space, I'm gonna put 2 single crochets. At the double crochet, I'll put 1 single crochet, chain 2 space, I'll put 2 single crochets, and I'm just gonna repeat that all the way across. And from here, it's going to be the same all the way around. I'm gonna do the exact same thing that I did on this one side to the other side of the work until I get back up to the starting corner to the top end of the shirt, and I will show you what we're gonna do at that point to shape the other shoulder. All right, so I've made it with my single crochets all the way around back to the top of the work. Here's my stitch marker for my second shoulder shaping, and I'm just coming around onto my last corner now. So I'm gonna put 2 single crochets into that corner, and then I'm going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now, after the chain 5, I'm going to start working across the row in the mesh stitch again. So you can see we finish our single crochets here, and now I'm gonna do my shoulder shaping. I'm gonna do the mesh stitch across, so two chain stitches, double crochet into the double crochet, 2 chain stitches, double crochet into the double crochet, until I get to the stitch marker. From there, I will do 5 rows of the mesh stitch between the stitch marker and the end of the work in order to create the identical shoulder shaping to the other side of the work. Here I am at my stitch marker now with my last double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and turn. And I'll just zoom through this second shoulder shaping, and I'll meet you at the end to show you what I'm gonna do to finish off that outline before we start getting ready to put this shirt together. All right, I just finished my 5th row here. So now we're going to start with a chain 1. We're gonna turn the work, and we're going to single crochet across the top. We have to make it symmetrical to the other side. So we're gonna single crochet in each of the double crochets, and then we're gonna put 2 single crochets in the chain 2 spaces. until we reach the corner. And then in the corner, we're gonna do what we did at all of the other corners with these single crochets. We'll do 2 single crochets, chain 1, 2 single crochets. And I'm just gonna zoom through this part here until I get to the corner so I can show you what I'm gonna do to match it up to where we sort of left off with our single crochets. All right, here I am at the corner. I'll put my last single crochet into the double crochet. Then we'll do 2 single crochets, a chain 1, 2 more single crochets, and then we're going to single crochet down. You can see here's where our single crochets finish. So we're gonna single crochet down this section until we meet our other single crochets. We're putting 2 single crochets in each of those large spaces. 1 and 2, 1 and 2, and here we are, back at the single crochets that we finished before doing the shoulder shaping on the second side. So here I'm going to slip stitch because this is basically a round. So we're gonna slip stitch that together. And at this point we can cut our yarn, pull that stitch through, and we can weave that stitch in. Now at this point, we have the neck shaping done, we have the shoulder shaping done, we have the underarm shaping done. But you can see this is all sort of janky and sort of squished around. So I'm going to block this out, and I'm going to do that this afternoon, and then I'm gonna come back to show you how we put this together tomorrow. I mean, for you it'll be quick, but I wanna leave it overnight blocking just to get it to be a little bit more, you know, nice, pretty square. You can see our single crochets go across the top of the strap, down the side of the work, under the armpit, down the side, along the bottom, and up the other side, but it does not do the neckline. Also, at this point, you need to have 2 of them. We need 2 of the exact same shape for this project, and that is it for today for me, and I will see you in just a second to show you what we're gonna do to put it together. All right, it's the next day. My pieces are blocked nice and flat, and now it's time for us to put this thing together. I think I wanna add flowers. I have been making these little flowers. Oh my goodness, the animals. I've been making these little flowers as tutorials, and leaves and clovers and all these just little floral motif applique things. And I think it would be really cute on a tank top to just stick these all around like the collar of the tank top. What do you think? So I think after we assemble this whole thing, we should stitch a bunch of florals on it and make it an adorable summer floral top. How cute would that be with all of those flowers? So let's get this thing put together and then we can get those motifs put on. So to put it together, I've already weaved in my ends that I had at the shoulders on both pieces. And now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be crocheting this together here, the shoulder area, and we're going to be crocheting the side seams together. If you made the same thing twice, then you're going to have the same number of stitches down and the same number of stitches across. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my yarn and my crochet hook, and I'm going to just insert the hook into the first stitch. Well, let me zoom you in for this. I'll insert the hook into the first stitch on the first piece of fabric at one end of the shoulder shaping, and then I'll insert the hook into the first stitch on the second piece of fabric. From here, I'm gonna loop over with the working yarn and pull that loop through, just like that. Then I'll drop my tail here and I'll do a chain of 1. Now, in the same spot that I just had that loop come out of, I'm going to put the hook back into that same spot, and I'm going to complete a single crochet, just like that. And now I'm going to single crochet across, but I'm going to put my hook in both pieces of fabric, and my seam will be a single crochet. So I'm going to just hold the tail along with my row, insert the hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. Insert into the next stitch on both pieces, and single crochet. And I'll just repeat that all the way across to close up the shoulder. And after I finish this first shoulder, I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side to the second shoulder. I'll cut my yarn, weave it in, and then I'll go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. So I'm gonna zoom through these and I will meet you when I've finished both shoulder seams to show you what we're gonna do next. All right, here we go. We've got both shoulders together. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing to put the side seams together. I'll pick up a loop on one end, single crochet across, and then weave in the end. And I'll do that for both side seams. And I'll see you back here once I finish that. Here I am at the last stitch of the second side seam. Looking good. Gonna put my last single crochet in here. And then I can trim my yarn and weave in that end. And then it's gonna be time for us to do some finishing border stitches before we get into stitching on some flowers. All right, so at this point you can try on the shirt and see how it fits, how it looks on you. I love it. It's a boxy tank top, so it's not fitted around the waist and it's got a nice wide neckline. It looks really cute on. I just tried it on. Now we're gonna turn it inside out, or outside in rather, so that our seams are on the inside of the work, like that. And now it's time for us to do some finishing stitches. We want to do some borders around the bottom, borders around the armholes, and a border around the neckline. I want to start at the bottom so we can figure out what we want to do for the rest. I'm gonna pull the body portion so that I'm working on the side seam to start. And I'm going to attach my yarn just before the side seam so that the connection point when we come to the end of a round is going to be over here as opposed to right on the seam. That way we can have it be a nice straight line over the seam. I've also decided, because I've been playing Yarn Chicken and I'm close to the end of my green ball of yarn, I want to switch colors. I'm gonna go in with this pink. It's a little bit of a thinner yarn, but I think that's gonna be just fine. And I think pink and green look great together, so it's gonna be okay. So let me zoom you in for this next part. So I'm gonna insert my crochet hook a few stitches before the actual join of the side seam. I'm going to yarn over with my new pink yarn and pull up a loop, and then I'll chain one. Then I will drop the tail end of the yarn, and in the same stitch that I just had that chain one come out of, I'm gonna put in a single crochet, just like that. From here, I am going to single crochet in each stitch all the way around. Just one single crochet in each stitch all the way around. And when I get up to the seam here, there's a stitch here and a stitch here that are both part of the seam. They are not part of our row we're working. They are part of the seam. So we're gonna skip that one, and we're gonna work into the next straight across single crochet, just like that. And then I'm just gonna single crochet around. I'm gonna do the same thing when I get to the next side seam until I get back to the beginning of this round. So I'll zoom through these single crochets because there's nothing special here, just single crochets, and I'll meet you at the end of the round to show you what we're gonna do next. Here I am coming up to the end of that round of single crochets, and I've decided I wanna do one more round of single crochets here because I want it to have just a little bit more weight. So I'm joining the round with a slip stitch. I'll chain one, single crochet into the base of that chain one, and then I'm gonna single crochet around again. And then after that, I think I'm gonna do a round of slip stitches. Yeah, I think the 2 rows of single crochet is gonna look nice. A little bit of a thicker band, just so it looks a little more intentional. So I'm gonna zoom around for one more round of single crochets here, and I'll meet you at the end of this round to show you what we're gonna do for our round of slip stitches. Here I am coming up to the end of my second round of single crochets, and I think that is good in terms of the thickness. I have a bird here, so if you hear bird noises, it's because we have a bird with us now. But I'm going to join my round here with a slip stitch, and then I am going to not chain one. I'm just gonna go ahead and slip stitch around. So I'm gonna put one slip stitch in each of these single crochets all the way around, and that's gonna create a really nice edge along the edge of the work. All right, I'm coming up to the end of my slip stitch round, and it is looking so good. It looks so clean. I love that look of single crochets and then a round of slip stitch on so many projects. Beelzebub saying, hey guys. All right, there we go. You're so good. All right, that's finished. I'm gonna cut my yarn and we're gonna weave that last end in. And here's how they look. It looks like a braided detail, a little bit of a thicker edge. Now I'm gonna do this exact repeat, 2 rounds of single crochet and 1 round of slip stitch. I'm gonna do the exact repeat around the collar and around both armholes. So I'm gonna do that off camera and I will be right back to show you what we're gonna do next. All right, I've just done both of the armholes with the exact same process that I did for the bottom hemline, and now I'm going to do the neckline. The neckline doesn't have a row of single crochets around it, so we're going to have to do a row of single crochets first before we can do our 2 rows also of single crochets, but still, let me just show you what I mean. I'll zoom you in for this. So this is the top shoulder seam right here. I'm going to grab into one of these larger holes. Yes, Beelzebub. Sorry, my bird is on my arm still. I'm going to pull up a loop with the pink yarn. Then I'm going to chain 1. Then I'm going to drop the tail. And I'm going to do 2 single crochets into this space. There's 1. And there's 2. Then I'm going to move over to the next big space and put 2 single crochets in there. There's 1 and there's 2. And now we're at the seam and I'm going to do single crochet 2 together for these 2 stitches here. I'm going to put 1, insert the hook, pull up a loop, insert into the next one here, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, like that. And now I'm at another big hole. I'm gonna put 2 single crochets in that space. And I'm gonna do that all the way down until I make it to the corner where the shoulder shaping finishes. And at this point, I'm gonna go and do 2 single crochets, single crochet in the double crochet, 2 single crochets, single crochet in the double crochet. But when we're working down a vertical, down the sides of the work, we're just putting 2 single crochets into the large spaces. So here I am at the corner now. And what I would do if I wanted to keep this as a nice sharp square is I would do 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet to kind of bring it in. Or maybe even single crochet 3 together here. That might work. Let's try that. Insert the hook, pull up a loop, insert the hook, pull up a loop, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 4, like that. Yeah, that's good, right? That creates a bit more of a curve. And then I will do another single crochet in that big square, then a single crochet into the double crochet, 2 single crochets into the chain 2, a single crochet into the double crochet, and on the same way until I get to the next corner. So I'll just zoom through this straight line and I'll meet you at the next corner to show you how I'm gonna go around that corner again. All right, I've made it to the next corner here. So I'm gonna put my 1 single crochet and then I'll do single crochet, or rather insert the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 4 loops. And there we go. Joined all of those stitches together. And then I'll just go on to the next section there and put 2 single crochets in each of the large spaces until I get up to the shoulder seam, which is pretty close by. I just have this bird chatting on my wrist. Yeah. All right, there we go. I've made it to the shoulder seam. Now at the shoulder seam, I'm gonna do insert the hook, pull up a loop. What's up? Insert into the next stitch, pull up a loop, 3 on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. And then we're back at the large spaces. So I'll put 2 stitches in each of the large spaces until I make it to the corner. I'm gonna do the same thing I did for the other two corners, and I'm gonna work across the flat side of the neckline the same way I did with the other side. So I'll just zoom through the rest of the neckline, or at least the rest of this row or this round, and I'll meet you back at the end of the round to show you how we're going to go around again to match it up to the arms and the bottom hemline. Here I am coming up to the end of that first round of single crochets. I'm just gonna slip stitch to the beginning of the round here. And now from this point, I'm gonna do the same thing I did for the sleeves and the body hemline. I'm gonna do 2 rounds of straight single crochets, followed by a 3rd round of slip stitches. So this, from this point, is gonna be the same. So the first difference with the collar is we're doing a round of single crochets where we do a little bit of shaping around the corners. And now we're going to do 2 rounds of just straight single crochets, followed by a 3rd round of just slip stitches. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna zoom through these 2 rounds of single crochets and my round of slip stitches, and I'll meet you back here to show you what the collar looks like after that. And then it's gonna be time to start putting on our flowers. I'm telling you, while I'm working quietly, this bird makes no noise, and then I turn on the camera and start talking, and she starts chit-chatting while sitting with me. Silly bird. All right, I'll see you when I finish these rounds. Here I am just coming up to the end of my round, my final round on my neckline. I just have 1 more slip stitch here to put in, and that slip stitch joins my round back to the beginning. So I'm gonna trim my yarn here, and then I can weave in this last bit. Now, this shirt, technically at this point, the shirt is done in terms of the shape and whatnot. I'm gonna take a minute to just block this under a steamed iron so that these edges are nice and laying flat. And then we're going to get into putting on some finishing touches. All right, I've just finished pressing this thing. It looks so good. I'm very excited about it. It looks good as is, honestly, so you could call it a day here, but I'm going to start adding some flowers. First, I'm gonna take a second and position all these flowers. I think I like how this looks. I think I might leave out the 4-leaf clover. It's just a little bit thick. I did it with such a small hook that it's got such a dense thickness to it, and maybe I'll leave out this yellow one also and just have that. Okay, so I am going to get some pink embroidery floss, something that kind of blends into all of these flowers, and I'm going to just go in with my embroidery floss and stitch these down. I'm gonna zoom through it because it's gonna take me forever probably, but I'm just gonna do basic stitches probably in the middle and then a couple little stitches throughout just to sort of tack these down. Oh my gosh, how cute does this look? Oh, I just finished putting on the flowers. I think I need to put a couple more on this side, but I've run out of flowers. So we're gonna have to make some more. But what do you think? All right, let's get into the outro of this. Let me take some photos so you can see how cute this looks on, and let's do it. Here is the final shirt. I think it's the best thing ever. I love how floral and whimsical it is. It's a great way to use up all of these handmade flowers that we've done over the last few videos. The mesh stitch lends itself so well to this project. It's almost like a trellis with plants growing up it, don't you think? I love it. Oh my gosh, what do you think? The flowers really do add to it, but even if you don't add the flowers, this is such a great project for the mesh stitch. I think it looks great with just a tank top underneath. You could wear it with a skirt, you could wear it with jeans. Having it be a little bit cropped allows for, I think, a little bit more of a versatile project. I would say this could be a beach cover-up also. This is really a pretty versatile tank top. I think it worked out so well. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and if you're going to be making a mesh tank top also, and are you gonna do some crochet appliques on top, or are you gonna keep it just plain as a tank top? If you just keep it plain as a tank top, I think that's still a great option. Obviously for me, I wanna add as much whimsy as possible, and I think the florals really added a whole lot of whimsical, fun energy to this project. Anyways, friends, that is all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to everyone who's supporting the channel this month. Patrons, YouTube members, thank you guys. Here is the list of you guys. You're awesome. If you would like to join join and support the channel as well, check the links in the description box down below. All the ways to support the channel will be there, along with all of the different tutorials you might need in order to make this project. If you want to do the flowers, I'll link those down below and in the iCard now. And the mesh stitch itself, I will link that in the description box as well as in the iCards. Everything you're gonna need to know. Okay, once again, that's everything. I'll see you next week. Bye!